I used to think silence was peace, but silence can hurt more than shouting. It's the sound that follows betrayal, the echo of being dismissed by the very voice you once sang lullabies to. That morning, my granddaughter called me a burden. The word hit harder than any fall I ever took from a horse. She said I was holding her back, that my old-fashioned ways were suffocating her future. And when she slammed the car door and drove away, dust swirling behind her tires, I swear I felt something in me crack for good. My name is Tom Miller. 73 years on this earth, 49 of them on the same patch of soil just outside Boone County. I've survived storms, droughts, and 3 heart attacks, but nothing quite prepared me for the storm that comes when your own blood decides you're irrelevant. Emma had always been my pride. Blonde hair like her grandmother's, eyes sharp and restless like her father's. When her parents died in that wreck 8 years ago, I raised her here, on this farm. She was 14, angry at the world, but she found comfort in small things, helping me feed the chickens, painting the barn door red one summer, sitting on the fence with a book too grown up for her age. I thought we understood each other. I thought she loved this land the way I did. I was wrong. It started small. She stopped coming to the fields. Her chores slipped. Then came the phone, always buzzing, always glowing, pulling her into some world where hard work was optional, and filters made everything look easy. "Grandpa, people make real money online," she told me once, showing me a video of some girl unboxing makeup in a room full of fairy lights. I don't need to be stuck here forever. I told her work isn't punishment, it's purpose, that there's a kind of joy you only get when your hands ache at night and your boots are caked with dust. She rolled her eyes. "You don't understand, Grandpa. You're from another time. Maybe I am, but that other time built the house she slept in, the food she ate, the savings that paid for her college. I thought she'd at least finish her degree. Instead, she came back last month with expensive clothes and the kind of confidence that smells like trouble. I got a job in the city," she said, standing in my kitchen, suitcase by her side. "Marketing assistant. It's a start." "That's good, sweetheart," I said, trying to smile. "But why the suitcase?" She hesitated. "Because I'm moving out. I can't keep living like this. No internet, no real life. This place, it's holding me back." "This place fed you," I said quietly. "This place buried your father and gave you a home." She crossed her arms. "And now it's a museum for your memories. You should sell it, Grandpa. Enjoy life before it's too late." Sell it. That word stung worse than the rest. Sell the land my father plowed with horses. The barn my wife painted blue every spring. The porch where I taught Emma to whistle. I didn't raise her to measure life in square footage and Wi-Fi speed, but she didn't wait for an answer. She hugged me out of guilt, not love, and left before sunset. For 2 days, I barely spoke. The farm was quiet, too quiet. The cows still needed milking, the fields still needed tending, but everything felt hollow. At night, I sat on the porch with my old dog, Duke, watching the road, half hoping I'd see her headlights again. She didn't come. Then the call came from her boss. "Mr. Miller, I'm sorry to bother you," the man said, his voice too polite. "Emma listed you as her emergency contact." My stomach dropped. "Is she all right?" "She's fine now," he said quickly. "But she was involved in a minor incident. Seems she fell behind on rent and, well, there was a dispute at work. We had to let her go." I thanked him and hung up, sitting there for a long time, staring at my trembling hands. Part of me wanted to rush to the city, fix everything like I used to when she was a child. But another part, the one that had been bruised by her words, stayed still. She'd wanted independence. She'd gotten it. 3 days later, she showed up on my doorstep. No car this time. Her eyes were swollen, her fancy shoes covered in mud. "Grandpa," she whispered, "can I stay here, just for a bit?" I looked at her, the girl who'd called me obsolete, and something inside me shifted. Love doesn't die, but it learns to protect itself. "You can stay," I said slowly, "but not as my guest." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "As my worker. You'll earn your keep, like anyone else on this farm." "Grandpa, I'm not—" "You said you wanted real life," I interrupted. "Well, this is it. Sun comes up at 5, breakfast at 6, chores by 7. You can sleep in the guest room if you promise to work, not complain. She looked stunned. Maybe she thought I'd just open my arms and forget everything she'd said. Maybe she still thought the world bent for her. Fine, she said finally, if that's what it takes. When she walked past me into the house, the smell of her perfume mixed with the faint scent of soil and hay. 2 worlds colliding in one kitchen. That night, I sat by the window watching her unpack. She placed her phone on the table, but the screen stayed dark. No calls, no messages. I realized then that she wasn't just lost in pride. She was lost. Period. Still, I didn't pity her. Not yet. Because tomorrow morning, when the rooster crowed and her alarm didn't, the real lesson would begin. And this time, I wasn't the one who'd be taught. The rooster screamed at 4:57 a.m., sharp, just like he did every morning for the last decade. I was already up, sipping black coffee on the porch, the sky still bruised with dawn. The smell of wet soil drifted from the fields. That honest smell that tells you the world's still alive. Inside the house, there was no sound, just the slow hum of the refrigerator and Duke's soft snoring at my feet. 5 o'clock came, then 5:30, then 6. Still no Emma. I gave her until 6:05 out of mercy, but mercy has limits. I walked to the guest room and knocked. "Emma," I said, calm but firm. "Sun's up." A groan from behind the door. It's still dark." "Then you've got time to work before the sun burns you." I heard her toss and mutter, but 10 minutes later she emerged, wrapped in a blanket like some exiled princess. Her hair was a mess, makeup smudged from the night before. "Breakfast?" I said, sliding a plate across the table. Fried eggs, black coffee, no sugar. "Eat up. You'll need strength." She poked at the eggs like they were foreign objects. "Do you seriously eat this every morning?" "Same way your grandmother did. Builds backbone. Pretty sure caffeine and grease just build cholesterol." I smiled. "You'll find out soon enough." By 7, we were outside. The mist was lifting, leaving behind dew that sparkled like glass on the grass. I handed her a pair of gloves and pointed to the chicken coop. "You start there, clean it out, lay new straw. They'll peck at you, so keep moving." Her face twisted. "You're joking, right?" "I haven't joked since 1984, I said, walking toward the barn. The next sound I heard was a shriek that could have woken the dead. "They're attacking me!" I didn't even turn around. They don't attack, they defend. By the time she made it to the barn, she looked like she'd survived a small war. Feathers stuck in her hair, one boot missing, a smear of dirt across her cheek. "This is insane," she gasped. "I didn't come here to be your farm hand." "You came here because you had nowhere else," I reminded her softly. "Now grab that pitchfork. We've got stalls to clean." She froze. "You can't be serious." "Emma," I said, my voice low, "this land doesn't care about your pride. It cares about your effort. You give it nothing. It gives you nothing. You treat it right. It feeds you, shelters you, keeps you alive. That's the deal." Her eyes flashed, the same stubborn blue I saw in her father's when he was young. "You think shoveling dirt will fix my life?" "No," I said, "but it might fix your heart." We worked in silence after that. Or rather, I worked. She dragged her feet, complained about her back, about the smell, about how her friends would die laughing if they saw her covered in manure. I didn't answer. Some lessons are quieter when they hurt. By noon, she collapsed on the haystack, panting. "I can't believe people live like this." "People used to," I said, washing my hands in the trough, "until they forgot how." She didn't reply, just stared at the fields, endless waves of green rolling toward the horizon. For a second, her face softened, almost childlike. "It's kind of beautiful," she admitted. "It's always been beautiful," I said. "You just never looked long enough." That night, she ate 3 plates of stew without a word. Her hands shook from exhaustion. I caught her glancing at me once, maybe expecting me to gloat, but I didn't. I just poured her another cup of water. "Tomorrow," I said, "we fix the fence line." She groaned. "Do you ever stop working?" "When you stop breathing." The second day went better. She woke up on her own, 10 minutes late, but progress is progress. She didn't talk much, just followed me with that quiet, wary focus people get when they're afraid of failing again. Around noon, she tried carrying a bundle of posts and nearly fell. I reached out to steady her, but she brushed my hand away. "I can do it," she said. "Didn't say you couldn't." Her arms trembled, her shirt soaked through with sweat. But she didn't quit. Not once. When we finished, she dropped to the ground, breathless but grinning. "I did it," she whispered. "That you did," I said. "You'll sleep tonight like a newborn calf." That evening, after supper, she found me on the porch. The sun was melting into the trees, turning the sky gold. She sat beside me without asking, tucking her knees to her chest. "Grandpa," she said after a long silence, "why do you still do all this? You could sell the farm, move somewhere easy." "Because this is who I am," I said simply. "Every fence post, every scar on my hands. That's my story. You sell it, you erase it." She nodded slowly. "I used to think you were stuck here, like, trapped. And now I think maybe you just belong." For the first time in weeks I smiled. Not the polite kind, but the real one that comes from somewhere deep. "Belonging isn't a prison, Emma. It's a privilege." She looked away, blinking hard, pretending it was the smoke from my pipe that made her eyes water. "I messed up, didn't I?" I didn't answer. She already knew. That night, long after she went to bed, I found her phone on the kitchen counter, screen cracked, battery dead. I almost plugged it in, but stopped myself. She didn't need the world's noise right now. She needed the silence, the good kind. Outside, the wind carried the faint sound of crickets, the same tune I'd listened to for 73 years. I thought of her parents, my son and his wife, and how proud they'd be to see their girl learning to stand again, even if she had to fall first. I poured myself a glass of water, turned off the lights, and whispered to the empty house. "She's starting to get it, Mary, just like we did." But I didn't know then that the real test was still coming, because sometimes, when people finally start to change, the world decides to see how serious they are. And Emma's test was about to hit harder than any sunrise or fence line could. It started with thunder, the kind that doesn't warn you. It just hits, splitting the sky open like it's angry. By dawn, the rain was coming sideways, drumming against the windows so hard it sounded like fists. I'd seen storms before, enough to know when they meant business, but this one, I could feel it in my bones, the kind that tests what you've built and who you've become. I was already pulling on my coat when Emma stumbled into the kitchen, still half asleep. "Grandpa, it's pouring out there. What are you doing?" "Checking the lower pasture," I said, grabbing the flashlight. "If the fence gives, the cows will end up on Route 9. She blinked at me, hair messy, face pale. "Can't we wait until it stops?" "By the time it stops, it'll be too late." She hesitated, then grabbed another coat, mine, hanging by the door. "Then I'm coming too." I wanted to say no, to tell her to stay dry, but something in her eyes stopped me. She wasn't the same girl who'd called me a burden 2 weeks ago. She looked steady. Scared, but steady. "Fine," I said. "But stay close. The ground will be slick." The wind hit us like a slap the second we stepped outside. The rain stung our faces, and the mud sucked at our boots. The flashlight's beam danced wildly, barely cutting through the downpour. The barn roof groaned like an old ship in the wind. "Grandpa!" Emma shouted over the storm. "This is insane! Welcome to real life!" I yelled back. When we reached the lower pasture, I saw it, the fence line half torn away, one of the posts ripped clean out by the wind. A gap wide enough for a dozen cows to wander straight into the road. "Grab that post," I ordered. "We'll brace it till morning." She slipped twice before reaching it, her hands trembling, mud streaking her face. But she didn't complain. Together, we forced the post back into the ground, our hands freezing, the wind howling like it wanted to knock us flat. For 10 minutes we fought the storm. For 10 minutes we were equals, not old and young, not wise and naive, just two people trying to keep something alive. When we finally stumbled back into the barn, soaked to the skin, I saw her laughing. Not politely, not nervously, really laughing? "What's funny?" I asked, wringing out my coat. She wiped rain from her eyes. "You, me, all this." I can't believe you do this every day. It's not every day, I said, catching my breath. Some days are worse. She laughed harder, then sat on a hay bale, steam rising from her wet clothes. I think I finally get it. Get what? This, she said, looking around the barn, the smell of hay, the rhythmic creak of the roof, Duke sleeping in the corner. You don't stay here because you have to. You stay because it's real. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Sometimes, when people finally see the truth, you don't need to add words. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thank you. We stayed in the barn until the worst passed. When we got back to the house, she helped me peel off my wet jacket and start a fire. For the first time since she'd come back, she didn't look like a visitor. She looked like she belonged. By noon, the storm had quieted to a steady drizzle. Emma made soup, her first attempt at cooking something that didn't come in a paper bag. It was terrible, too salty and somehow burnt at the same time. But I ate every spoonful. You don't have to pretend it's good, she said, grinning. I'm not, I said. I'm pretending it's edible. She threw a napkin at me, laughing again. It felt like the house was breathing easier, as if the rain had washed more than just the dirt off the windows. That afternoon, she sat at the old oak table, scrolling through her cracked phone. Grandpa, she said, her voice careful, I got a message from the landlord in the city. He's selling the apartment. Even if I wanted to go back, I can't. I looked at her. And do you want to? She was quiet for a long time. Then softly, I don't know. I thought I did. But when I left, everything I wanted felt shiny. Empty, too. That's the thing about shiny, I said. It doesn't stay that way for long. She smiled faintly. You always talk in riddles. I just live long enough to know what they mean. That night, after dinner, she came to the porch again. The rain had stopped, and the sky was clear, full of stars so sharp they looked close enough to touch. She leaned against the railing beside me. Grandpa, she said quietly, if Mom were here, do you think she'd be disappointed in me? The question hit me like a nail in the chest. I took a deep breath before answering. No, she'd be proud that you found your way back. That takes guts. Her eyes glistened in the starlight. I didn't come back because I'm brave. I came back because I failed. Then you're already learning, I said. Failure's just the rent you pay for growth. She let out a shaky laugh. You sound like a fortune cookie. Better than sounding like a fool. She nudged me with her shoulder. I missed you. I wanted to tell her I'd missed her every day since she left, that I'd kept her room clean, just in case. But words like that don't fix things. They just make them heavier. So I said the only thing that felt right. Good, now get some sleep. We've got a broken roof to patch in the morning, she groaned. Of course we do. But she smiled as she said it, and when she went inside, I stayed there, looking at the stars, listening to the night breathe again. I thought the storm had passed. I thought we'd found our peace. But peace has a strange way of testing whether you're ready to keep it. Because the next day, a white pickup pulled into the driveway, and the man who stepped out carried papers that could take everything I'd ever built. And this time, it wasn't the weather coming for us. It was family. The truck door slammed, and the sound rolled across the yard like thunder all over again. Duke barked once, low and uncertain. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped out onto the porch. The white pickup looked out of place against the mud-slick drive. Too clean, too new, too sure of itself. Then I saw who was behind the wheel. Uncle Nate, Emma said, stepping out of the barn, squinting through the morning haze. Her voice trembled a little. She hadn't seen her mother's brother in years. Not since the funeral. He was taller than I remembered. Heavier, too. City weight, I thought. The kind you gain when you spend more time sitting in meetings than lifting anything that matters. He had a leather folder tucked under one arm, and the kind of smile people use when they're about to take something that isn't theirs. Morning, Tom, he said, climbing the steps like he owned them. Emma, what brings you here? I asked, though I already knew. He opened the folder slowly, like a man savoring bad news. You've been hard to reach. Thought I'd deliver these in person. The pages inside were thick, stamped, notarized, heavy with law and consequence. Emma frowned. What is that? Nate sighed, putting on a performance of sympathy. Your grandpa's land, sweetheart. It's time to move on. There's been an offer. I felt the air tighten. An offer from who? Developers, he said casually. They want to build some lakefront cabins. Good money in it. I've been talking to them for months. Months? I said, my jaw locked. Without my consent? Nate chuckled softly. You're 73, Tom. I figured maybe it was time to start thinking about retirement. I'll retire when the ground does, I said. He smiled unbothered. You'll think differently when you see the numbers. He flipped open a page. 1.4 million cash offer. Enough to buy yourself a house in town, new truck, maybe even a trip somewhere warm. It's a win for everyone. Everyone but me, I said. Emma stepped closer. Wait, you mean sell the farm? The whole thing? That's right. Nate's tone softened when he looked at her. Your grandpa could live comfortably. You'd inherit money instead of dirt. I felt my chest tighten. This land isn't for sale. Nate shrugged. That's not really your decision anymore. The words hung in the air like smoke. What do you mean? I asked quietly. He pulled another document from the folder and tapped the top line. You remember that small loan you took out 4 years ago, after the drought? Of course. Well, turns out the bank sold it. And guess who bought it up when you missed last quarter's payment? I stared at him. You. Me, he said, smiling wide. So technically, until you pay it off, which I doubt you can, this property is in default. And default means control, which means I can sell to whoever I want. Emma gasped. You can't do that. This is his home. Oh, sweetheart, Nate said, his tone dripping with fake concern. I can, and I already did. I didn't speak. I just looked at him, at the man who'd eaten at my table, whose tuition I'd once helped pay when his father couldn't. My stomach turned. Emma was trembling now, her eyes darting between us. You tricked him? Nate shrugged. Business, kiddo. It's not personal. But it was. It always is. I walked past him, down the steps, toward the edge of the porch where the mud met gravel. You think money makes you smart, Nate, but you just made the dumbest deal of your life. He laughed. How's that? Because you forgot one thing, I said. This land isn't just dirt. It remembers who walks on it. He frowned. You always talk like a preacher when you're cornered. Not cornered, I said. Calculating. He waved the papers in the air. You've got 2 weeks, Tom. After that, the bulldozers roll in. And don't go looking for sympathy. Emma's name's on the inheritance, too. She's part of this now, whether she likes it or not. And then he turned and walked back to his spotless truck, his tires spitting mud like the land itself was rejecting him. When the sound faded down the road, Emma was crying. She covered her face with her hands. Grandpa, I didn't know. I swear I didn't. I put a hand on her shoulder. I know, sweetheart, but now you do. She looked up at me, eyes red. What are we going to do? I looked out over the fields, the barn, the line of trees swaying gently after the storm. We're going to fight, I said, but he owns the loan, and I own something stronger, time, truth, and a lawyer who owes me 3 favors. She sniffled, managing a weak smile. You're not scared, are you? Scared? I chuckled. No, I'm angry, and anger's just courage with a broken heart. That evening, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Jerry, my old lawyer, who once helped me save the farm from a tax scam back in the 90s. The second was to a woman named Helen Pierce, local reporter, tough as rust, who'd covered every shady development deal in the county. When I told her Nate Miller's name, she didn't even hesitate. I've heard of him, she said, and the developers behind him. They've been buying farmland under shell loans all year. Can you prove it? I asked. Maybe, she said, but I'll need access to your records. You'll have them by morning. Emma was standing by the doorway, listening. Grandpa, she said softly, are you sure about this? You could lose everything. I smiled. Emma, the only thing worse than losing everything is keeping it by giving up who you are. She came closer, voice trembling. Then I'm with you? Whatever happens? I looked at her, at the mud still dried on her jeans, at the determination sitting where her pride used to be. And for the first time, I saw not just my granddaughter, but the woman her mother might have been proud of. Good, I said, because tomorrow we start fighting fire with daylight. But as I turned back toward the window, something caught my eye, the faint glimmer of headlights far off on the ridge. A second truck, idling where it didn't belong, watching. Whoever was inside wasn't here to talk. The war for this land had already begun. The truck on the ridge stayed there long enough to let me know it wasn't a mistake. Just headlights, silent, steady, watching. Then, after a few minutes, it turned and disappeared into the trees. I didn't tell Emma right away. She'd already had her fill of worry for one night. I sat by the window till near midnight, Duke asleep at my boots, the old clock ticking loud enough to sound like a countdown. I'd fought storms, banks, even my own body before, but this felt different. This was family turning into strangers. That cuts deeper than debt ever could. By morning, the rain had gone and the air was sharp and clean. I brewed coffee the old way, over the stove, while Emma stumbled into the kitchen rubbing her eyes. She'd aged 10 years in 1 week, and not all from hard work. "You didn't sleep," she said. "Neither did you," I replied. She smiled weakly. "We're a pair, huh?" "Best kind," I said. By 7 we were on the road, heading toward town in my pickup. The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was steady, like two people pulling the same plow. I parked outside Jerry's office, a narrow brick building with faded blue paint and a crooked sign that still said Kowalski and Sons, even though Jerry's boys had long since left for the city. He met us at the door, same old round glasses and coffee breath. "Tom," he said, gripping my hand, "I should have guessed you'd show up before breakfast." "Nate Miller," I said. "He's using an old loan to push a sale through." Jerry's brow furrowed. "That loan was cleared last year. I filed the paperwork myself." "Apparently not in his version." "Then his version's about to meet the county clerk's version," Jerry said, pulling out a folder, thick with dust and promise. While he dug through papers, Emma sat quiet, staring at the diplomas on the wall. After a minute, she said softly, "Grandpa, I still don't get it. Why would Uncle Nate do this?" "We're family." Jerry looked over his glasses. "Family makes the best thieves, sweetheart. They already know where you keep the keys." Emma flinched. I reached over and squeezed her shoulder. "We'll fix it," I said. The land survived worse men than Nate. By noon, Jerry had found what he needed, a copy of the loan discharge, stamped and signed by the bank. But there was more. He handed me another document, his finger tapping a name. "See this? This new buyer Nate's dealing with isn't just a developer. It's a shell company tied to an outfit out of Chicago. Real estate vultures. They don't build cabins. They flip land to energy companies." "So he's selling it twice," I said. "Exactly, and that, my friend, is fraud." Emma's face hardened. "Can we stop him?" "Oh, we'll stop him," Jerry said. "But I want you ready, Tom. Men like Nate don't back down easy. They've got lawyers who wear prettier suits than mine." "I've got something better than suits," I said. "Truth and a stubborn streak." He laughed. "That you do." We left with a folder full of documents and a plan. Call the reporter, go public if we had to. Shine a light so bright it burned the lies away. But life has a habit of testing you right when you start feeling strong. Halfway home, we found the barn door hanging open, tools scattered, tire tracks in the mud. Emma froze. "Grandpa?" I stepped inside. The smell of gasoline hit me first. Then I saw the words scrawled across the wall in black paint. "Get out while you can." My stomach turned to stone. Duke growled low, the kind of growl he hadn't made since he was young. I looked around. Nothing stolen, just ruined. Feed sacks ripped open, fences slashed, the tractor's tires slashed clean through. Whoever did this wanted to scare, not steal. Emma's voice shook. "Was it him?" "No," I said quietly. "Nate doesn't get his hands dirty, but someone he knows does." She looked pale, on the edge of tears. "We should call the police." "We will," I said. But first, I crouched down and ran my fingers through the mud near the tracks. "See that tread pattern? Those aren't farmer's tires. Too fine. City truck. Probably the same one from last night." Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "They're trying to run us out." "Then they don't know us," I said. We cleaned what we could, boarded the door, and waited for the sheriff. He was a decent man, worn around the edges. Promised to file a report, but his tone said it all. No witnesses, no suspects, no rush. After he left, I found Emma sitting on the porch, her knees pulled up, staring at the road. "Grandpa, she said. You should have let me go back to the city. You wouldn't be in danger if not for me. I sat beside her. Emma, this didn't start with you. It started the moment I let someone think they could buy integrity with paper. She looked at me, her voice breaking. But it's my fault you're alone here. I shook my head. I'm not alone. You're here. She wiped her face with her sleeve. And if they come back, then they'll find 2 Millers instead of 1. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the window again, the shotgun across my knees, watching the driveway for headlights. But none came. Just the sound of crickets and the slow sigh of the wind through the corn. Around 3 a.m., Emma padded softly into the room, wearing one of her mother's old flannel shirts. You should rest, she whispered. Can't, I said. She hesitated, then sat down beside me. You know, she said quietly, when Mom died, I thought coming back here was like being buried alive. But now, I think it's the first time I've been awake. I turned to her, surprised by the tremor in her voice. I didn't just run from you, Grandpa, she said. I ran from everything that reminded me of her. The smell of the kitchen, the sound of the porch swing. It hurt too much. I thought if I pretended I was different, maybe I could forget. My throat tightened. You don't have to forget, Emma. You just have to keep remembering for the right reasons. She nodded, tears slipping quietly down her face. I want to make it right. You already are. We sat there until dawn, painted the fields in soft gold. For the first time, I felt something shift inside me, a fragile kind of peace trying to grow through the cracks. But at breakfast, the mail truck pulled up, and the peace shattered. The envelope was thick, official, county seal, Nate's lawyer's name printed bold. Inside, one sentence in legal language that said everything, eviction scheduled 14 days. Emma's hands shook as she read it. Grandpa, what are we going to do now? I looked out the window, at the fields glistening under the morning sun. We're going to fight fire with daylight, remember? I said softly. And now, it's time to light the match. Because if Nate thought I was going to fade quietly, he'd forgotten who raised the daughter that gave him the only good years of his life. He wasn't just fighting an old man. He was fighting everything that still remembered love, loyalty, and the value of a hard-earned inch of land. And I was done losing inches. I spent that whole night at the kitchen table with Jerry's folder open in front of me. Pages covered the wood like fallen leaves. Bank records, loan statements, county filings. My reading glasses kept sliding down my nose, but I didn't stop. Every line of legal nonsense hid something important, and I meant to find it before the sun came up. Emma dozed off on the couch, curled beneath an old quilt her grandmother had sewn before she was born. I kept glancing at her, the faint rise and fall of her shoulders, the soft light from the lamp painting her face. She looked like a child again, and for a minute I remembered what it felt like to believe time was kind. But time isn't kind. It just keeps score. By morning, I had what I needed, a line item buried deep in the sale contract, a clause that voided the deal if the property's title was disputed before closing, which meant if I could prove even one of Nate's signatures was tied to fraud, everything would collapse. Grandpa, Emma said sleepily, rubbing her eyes, you haven't slept. Don't need to, I said, sliding the document toward her. I just found our lever. She leaned closer, frowning. Clause 12? Clause 12, I said. If we show that Nate filed false ownership documents, the deal's dead. But how do we prove that? That's where Helen comes in. Right on cue, the reporter's old sedan rolled up the drive, coughing smoke. She stepped out with a camera bag over one shoulder and a grin sharp enough to cut wire. Morning, Mr. Miller. I brought coffee. Black, 2 sugars. You look like a man who hasn't blinked since Nixon. Feels about right, I said. She spread her papers out beside mine, scanning fast. Your nephew's been busy. He's signed 3 properties in the past 6 months using the same shell company, Miller Development Group, LLC, registered to a mailbox in Chicago. That's the one Jerry mentioned, I said. Yep, Helen replied. And here's the kicker. 2 of those sales are already under federal investigation. Mortgage fraud, title manipulation, the works. He's about to learn what happens when you steal from the wrong farmer. Emma stared at her. Can we make this public? Helen grinned. Sweetheart, I brought my camera for a reason. By noon, she was interviewing me in the barn, dirt floors, sunlight pouring through the slats, Duke wandering in the background. I told her everything, the fake loan, the threats, the vandalism. My hands shook once, but not from fear, from anger that still hadn't cooled. When she asked what the land meant to me, I said the truth. It's not just soil, it's memory, every footprint, every scar, every grave under these trees. You sell that? You don't make progress. You erase history. She nodded, eyes glinting. That's your headline right there. Emma stood behind the camera, her expression caught between pride and guilt. I could tell she wanted to say sorry again, but I didn't need it anymore. She was here. That was enough. The story aired that evening. 6 minutes of truth on local news that spread faster than I expected. By dawn, half the county had seen it. People I hadn't spoken to in years started showing up. Old neighbors, farm hands, even folks from the church. They brought food, letters, memories. "We're with you, Tom," they said. "Don't let him take it." Emma helped organize them, called the paper, made flyers, started a petition. Watching her, I realized the girl who once ran from this land was now fighting for it harder than anyone. But Nate wasn't done. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thank you. 3 days later, his truck pulled up again, uninvited. No smile this time, just tight anger behind expensive sunglasses. "You had to make this messy, didn't you?" he said. "I just told the truth," I said. "You ruined everything. The investors pulled out this morning. Do you have any idea what that cost me?" "About what you tried to steal from me," I said. He stepped closer. "You think this makes you a hero? You're just an old man clinging to dirt." I met his eyes. "And you're a man who traded family for cash. Guess which one sleeps better?" For a moment I thought he might hit me, his hands clenched, jaw tight, but then he turned, muttering, "You'll regret this." He got in his truck and drove off, spitting gravel behind him. I watched him disappear down the road, feeling a weight lift off my chest. That afternoon, Jerry called. "Tom, it's done. County's freezing all transactions tied to that company. Your title's safe. And Nate, well, he's got a few men in suits asking for explanations he won't have." I sat down slowly, the relief washing over me like sunlight after a storm. Emma was standing by the porch, watching the cows move through the field. When I told her, she covered her mouth with her hands and started to cry. We spent the evening fixing the last of the fences the vandals had broken. She hummed under her breath, some tune her mother used to sing. When we finished, she looked at the sunset, the sky burning orange over the hills, and said softly, "I don't think I ever saw how beautiful it was here before." I nodded. "You had to lose it to see it." She smiled, eyes still wet. "So what happens now?" "Now," I said, "you start over, and so do I." We sat on the porch till the first stars came out. She leaned her head on my shoulder like she used to when she was little, and for the first time in years, I felt the house truly alive again. "Grandpa," she whispered, "thank you for not giving up on me." I smiled into the dark. I'd sooner give up the sunrise. The next morning, I found her already outside, feeding the chickens, humming. Her boots were muddy, her hair wild, and she looked more like this land than she ever had before. And I thought to myself, maybe that's what life really is. The long road from pride to purpose. The understanding that what you inherit isn't just land or money, but lessons written in sweat. She caught me watching her and grinned. "What?" "Nothing," I said, "just proud." The wind moved through the fields, carrying the scent of wet grass and promise. For once, I didn't feel the years pressing on me. I felt light, free, because the land was safe. My granddaughter had come home, and the ghosts of the past, the ones I'd carried too long, finally felt at peace. The end. If you like the story, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and write in the comments if something like this has ever happened in your life. I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for watching.